This is the Central Coast Craft Beer Radio Show on the Crush 92.5.
From the Libertine by the sea,
hop on beer tours to the brewery.
It's Central Coast Craft Beer Radio.
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 Oh man, I just love drinking beer.
Yeah, me too.
Where do you want to go this week?
I don't know.
Hey, grab me a beer. Yeah, that one right there.
There you go.
Central Coast Craft Beer Radio.
From the Libertine by the sea,
hop on beer tours to the brewery.
It's Central Coast Craft Beer Radio.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, no problem. Cheers.
Central Coast Craft Beer Radio.
The Central Coast Craft Beer Radio.
Central Coast Craft Beer Radio.
It's Central Coast Craft Beer Radio.
Woohoo! I'm excited. It's gonna be a good episode.
I hope so.
You got a cold beer?
Yeah.
Well, it's gonna be a good episode then.
It's Central Coast Craft Beer Radio.
Back in on the Central Coast Craft Beer Radio show. Pepper Daniels with you and heading down south to Dr. Jekyll's. That's right, as in Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Tom Costa, co-owner, on the line with us. Again, let's get the location down first. People want to find you. You guys are in Altadena, right?
That's correct, yep. That's where we're based out of.
So that's pretty easy for us. Those of us up here on the Central Coast, it's like near Pasadena, just north of Pasadena.
Yep, that's right.
Awesome. Well, the story kind of starts, though, in Vermont, right? How does it start in Vermont, and how did it end up in California?
Well, it's an interesting story. Originally, I'm from New Hampshire, but I've been out in L.A. now for about 17 years. So I was actually back east. And a buddy of mine, I'd like to take credit for the concept, but my best friend from high school actually did. He was an all-natural bodybuilder and also a scientist for GlaxoSmithKline, a really good guy. And we were just drinking beer one day, and he was thinking, what if, you could drink beer, everybody drinks beer, what if you could, get something a little extra from it, a little added benefit? And I'm like, that's a great idea. So we were kind of kicking around the idea, and I didn't really have a whole lot of time to do much with it. But anyways, when I was back east, I was friends with Ray McNeil of McNeil's Brewery. Master Breweries, won about 15 international and domestic awards, really good guy. And ran the idea by him, and he's a traditionalist. He actually thought it was a crazy idea, but actually a really good idea. So, just preliminary discussions, but long story short, he got really sick and actually had the Jim Henson's disease, like an autoimmune sickness in his spine or something like that.
Oh, goodness,
and, yeah, and he almost died. And so after that, we all kind of got together and said, look, let's do this. Let's create a really great tasting craft beer that has something a little special about it, and which we can feel really good about. So we started working on formulations and brewing with different superfoods, and so we did some work back east, but then we also set up a pilot brewery out here. We were doing the brewing out here. He was coming out here. So pretty much all the work's been done out here, although we did do a couple scale-up batches over there. But so that's why we say it's born in Vermont, but brewed and based in California. So
excellent. And when you talk about something a little extra, we're talking about like ingredients that are natural. We're talking about superfood type things you mentioned. Just ways to get a little bit more than just a quick glycemic hit, right? Because that's what beer is. It's a quick glycemic hit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the beer's organic. We wanted to make sure that it was, it's 99.8% organic, depending on the beer. So we want to make a really good product and to brew with superfoods that not only are they give it a certain flavor and aroma characteristic. We like to say we're truly odd yet oddly delicious. So it's certainly off-centered beer, off-centered ales, if you will. And but with these superfoods, each one of them has its own benefit, if you will. And it's something that we're pretty proud of, and it's been working out real well so far. I mean, we're not going to win everybody over, but that's the case with any beer. But it's been going great so far.
Well, it's certainly a trend these days. We're hearing more and more about organic ingredients, especially organic hops and things are starting to become more and more popular as people are looking. It's very Californian too to be looking for the healthiest and most natural and ingredients. I know where they come from. The chemical-free type stuff. Tell us about brewing organic. What goes into that might be different than say a typical craft brewer deals with?
Well, first of all, when you're brewing organic beer, it used to be that just the organic malt had to be organic, and I think a couple of years ago they made it that the organic hops or the hops also have to be organic, and so the price obviously of the raw materials is much more expensive, but we've kept our price, so it's not too high. It's more mid-range, if you will. But brewing organic does have some challenges because you can't co-locate, your organic materials with non-organic, and even the non-organic component of the organic product still has to meet very stringent guidelines. Even the non-organic component, in which case is less than 1%, still has to be non-GMO, and it can't be irradiated, it can't be grown using sewage sludge as a fertilizer. So it's pretty strict. And so one thing that we've noticed is that you definitely get a cleaner taste. It definitely seems cleaner, and it's just a better product for you.
And pretty much the rest of the characteristics you're going for are the same as everybody else. You want balance, you want the right taste profiles for whatever type of beer you're making.
Yeah, we, the three beers that we have right now, our Irish Red is coming out this month, and but we have our India Pale Ale. It's not a West Coast IPA. We make sure we tell people that. I love West Coast IPAs, but it's not as bitter, not as floral. It's more of what I would call in the spiced IPA category because we're brewing with, clove oil, ginger oil, some of the essential oils, and we're the only beer company that can do that because we have proprietary technology to do that. We've partnered with Viren, which is a NutriBiosciences company, and they just have this fantastic company that has this technology where we can basically take non-miscible ingredients like oils and put them in beer, and it opens up the different types of ingredients that we can use. Flaxseed oil we have in our Irish Red, as well as algal oil. So these are all things that typically would not mix in beer, and nobody else can do this but us. So it's kind of exciting, and you get other benefits from that type of technology as far as how it's assimilated into your body. It's much more efficient and better for you. You also get from that type of technology you get more of the original flavor and the aroma profile, what's in the raw ingredient. So it's pretty cool. We can do a lot of different things that other people can't do. So, but in answer to your question, yeah. So our IPA is, like I said, more in the spiced IPA sessionable category, where our American Kolsch is a very light Kolsch, but we brew it similar in the style from the Germantown of Früh. So it's a little bit gently fruitier and a little bit sweeter than a traditional dry Kolsch. And so it's a little sweet on the beginning and a little tart at the end because we put in grapefruit fiber. We brew it with grapefruit fiber as well as Mackay berry, acai berry, raspberry ketone, green coffee bean. So all these things have their own benefit to you, their own contribution, if you will.
We're talking with Tom Costa. He's the co-owner of Dr. Jekyll's down in Altadena, and it just looks like it opens up a ton of great ingredients and a new palette of things for you to play with. I want to back up for just a second before we break down the beer too much and talk about the name Dr. Jekyll's. I love the imagery of it. I love what you've done on the website with some of the cool little effects that you've got on there. What was the thinking behind that for branding and marketing purposes to go with Dr. Jekyll?
Well, it has a number of different meanings, but basically Dr. Jekyll's, right? It's based on the strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Dr. Jekyll, the mad scientist creating these different formulas or potions, which is kind of what we're doing. We're really pushing the boundaries of how beer can be brewed. Dogfish has done a really fantastic job of doing that as well as some other breweries. But we're doing it. We're kind of taking it to a whole nother level. and it's particularly if you really look at the ingredients and how they're all tied together and what they can do. But the other side of it is there's two sides to Dr. Jekyll's. There's the good side, Dr. Jekyll, and the bad side, Mr. Hyde, right? Well, if you drink too much beer, you can turn into a Mr. Hyde.
Yeah, you can.
Nobody wants to party with a Mr. Hyde, right? Unless, of course, you're another Mr. Hyde.
I love it. I love the mad science. The imagery is really good. Was it hard to get all that stuff copyrighted? Was that a trick because it's a famous story, but I suppose it's just out there, right?
Well, it's a really good question, and actually, when we did, it's in the public domain, but at the same time, you still have to get a trademark. So this goes back a number of years when we first filed for an intent-to-use trademark, and we actually found on our in-depth search that Anheuser-Busch actually had that trademark for beer class because they actually had a Jekyll and Hyde liqueur, but then when they were bought by InBev, they apparently shed most, if not all, of their liquor products, including the Jekyll and Hyde liquor product, and so that the Dr. Jekyll's for beer class was available to us, so we went ahead and we secured that mark.
Nice.
There is another brewery in Atlanta called Jekyll Brewing, and they actually came after us, and it's created a little bit of confusion in the marketplace, which we're trying to address right now. But it is a cool mark, and a lot of people like the branding, a lot of people love the beer, and a lot of people like the story behind it.
Yeah,
and the other thing that's nice, too, that I'd like to point out is every beer that we brew, I'm kind of taking this from Newman's products, which I really love Newman's products. We give back to society, so every beer has a tied-in charity. So for our BioBeer IPA, 1% of proceeds, not net profit, but proceeds goes to the American Cancer Society. And for our Irish Red, 1% of proceeds goes towards the American Heart Association. And then we have the Wounded Warrior Project for our Kolsch. So every beer that we come out is going to have a tied-in charity. We also use silk screening, like Stone, except our silk screening is different. It's a UV adhesive, so it's completely environmentally friendly. There are no heavy metals. We just wanted to create a great product that we can feel proud with. It tastes great, it's different, and that people feel good about participating in buying the product because we're giving back to society.
Awesome. I was going to say it's too bad Budweiser lost that because we know how hard they work to make their beer. So, I don't know if you caught on to the Super Bowl commercial controversy, but we take a dig at them every time we can. So.
At least we feel like we're benefiting from their marketing team's research.
Exactly. Let's go back. So we're talking about this Beer Belly. Beer Belly is your Kolsch, so it's your American Kolsch style. You said it's a little bit sweeter, a little bit fruitier with some of these superfood ingredients. It probably gives you a little bit of a different tasting profile than you're used to when you approach a Pilsner or a Kolsch.
Yeah, I mean, so with a lot of people don't realize that Kolsches don't always have to be dry, and there's some Kolsches that are a little bit on the sweeter side, and some of the Kolsches from for example, we kind of styled ours after from the Germantown of Frue, and where they have a Kolsch, and it's gently sweeter. It's not over the top sweet like some of the raspberry beers on the market. This is more. It has a very I want to say a little berry on the front, little tartness on the back with the grapefruit, but it's very smooth. It's very great tasting beer on a hot summer day, and it's been doing very well. And we balance it with a little cardamom and coriander because our first initial batches that we had tried were just a little bit too much on the sweet side, so we balance it with the cardamom and coriander, which actually really give it a nice complex aroma profile or flavor profile as well.
You mentioned the BioBeer, not an aggressively hopped West Coast style IPA. We were trying to determine this past weekend, what does it really mean to be West Coast style IPA? I think aggressive hops is really the primary consideration when you're calling something West Coast hop. So with some of these interesting ingredients, you get a little bit more of a smoother flavor when you pour your IPA, right?
Yeah, I mean, typically, traditional IPAs from the UK, their IBU, their international bittering unit content, is not going to be as high as the American IBU content. So typically, theirs is going to be more in the 30 to 50 range. Our IPAs are more in the 40 to 60. And once you get over that, you're more in the double IPA, Imperial IPA range. So ours is at 56. So it's high for British, but moderate for American, IPAs. The West Coast IPAs is that when I think of a West Coast IPA, the IBU content's pretty high. The alcohol content is typically very close to the IBU content. You know, if it's 70 IBUs, it's going to be around 7% alcohol. As a general rule, and they typically dry hop a lot, so you get a very nice hop aroma. And there are a lot of great hops that folks are using now, Citra hops and just a whole bunch. We actually dry hop very, very heavily with organic Simcoe hops, but as well as Cascade. But we're also getting a little bit of the clove and the ginger somewhat dampens that down a little bit as far as that hop, the typical hop aroma to come out. So you're getting more of the ginger and the clove coming out in the aroma mixed in with the hop. So it's very complex. But it's definitely more sessionable, where we've heard from a lot of folks that, you know, we can just drink several of these, and, you know, we don't have that bitterness where we can only have one or two. So then that's kind of what we were aiming for.
Are you finding organic hops a little bit easier? Got a few leads on that, so it's becoming more and more common these days?
Yeah, I mean, we deal with a couple great suppliers, really good companies, and we haven't had. I mean, we've certainly had an issue with one of our hops as far as supply, but we ended up purchasing a couple years worth, and but there's some really good things happening on the organic hop front with new varieties coming out. You know, a Simcoe hop is not going to have the same aroma profile, you know, one-to-one, if you will, as a organic Simcoe. They're a little bit different, but in answer to your question, yeah, they are becoming more popular. I should say more available, because, you know, the organic beer market definitely is increasing. I mean, a lot of the craft beer folks, they don't care about organic beer. Some of them do, but a lot of other, you know, I'd say fringe craft beer drinkers definitely love the fact that we use organic hops and malt.
Well, it sounds like you've got some really interesting beers, and the word that comes to my mind earlier, I think you even said it, was clean. When you're dealing with a lot of these great organic materials, the superfoods, and back to this proprietary technology that you have that allows you to combine ingredients together. I do picture you guys like the mad scientists and Dr. Jekyll. There must have been a long time of sort of experimentation with a little bit of this, a little bit of that, these different oils, these different substances.
Yeah, I mean, certainly. I mean, for every beer that we've come out with, I mean, we've only come out with 3, really, but we're going to be coming out with a new beer every 6 months or so. And, you know, definitely there's been a lot of batches that weren't quite right, or we tossed, or they were close, and we tried this. But we were actually fairly lucky in that we always had something pretty good to work with, and then we kind of built upon it. But all the superfoods in each beer work together in a very specific way, for not just aroma or flavor contributions, but a lot of the people understand that when they're, you know, buying a product that has these ingredients in them, they're getting something a little extra with that. So, but for us, it's mainly about aroma and flavor contributions. But by all means, I mean, there's certainly a lot of experimentation, a lot of research that went into the formulas or the flavor profiles of the ingredients. Because some things just wouldn't work. I mean, we would add something and it would be too powerful, or it just wouldn't work. I mean, we have garlic. Too much Dr. Hyde. Yeah, we have garlic in our bio beer, which does add a certain flavor component and aroma component, but it's very, very muted. It's more earthy. But obviously, if you jack that up, you're going to have a garlic beer, and I'm sure some people would like it, but most people wouldn't.
Most people wouldn't. Tom Costa is the co-owner, Dr. Jekyll's. We've been learning the story of Dr. Jekyll's down in Altadena, and I see we'll get you out on this one, Tom. Your distribution's starting to increase. We're starting to see you got some bottles in some places. You got a lot of taps. Whole Foods is a good one. I see San Luis Obispo and Santa Barbara, so you're in our neighborhood at Whole Foods.
Yeah, actually, we started with self-distribution. We've been on the market since at the end of October, and that was our intent, was to build up get consumer awareness and be more of the driving force behind the brand until we became somewhat attractive to some distribution companies. We ended up targeting 3, and we got offers from 2, and we went with one that we feel is really good for us. And they're a great company, and we're excited to just start with them. Literally, we're just starting with them this week. And we also have another distribution company in the Midwest that wants to carry our beer, even though we're not planning on opening up the Midwest right away. They still want it. And but yeah, Whole Foods up north, they're ready to roll us out. They think we're going to do fantastic up there in the Bay Area. Although we don't have a distribution company in the Bay Area, but we just started looking this week, so we're excited to hook up with somebody up there. BevMo is excited to also carry us, but again, we're just getting on board with distribution with those guys. So we got some good things. Right now we're in 22-ounce bottles, but we're coming out with 12-ounce bottles this month with our Beer Belly, and so that'll be more approachable to folks that are typically used to buying 6-packs as opposed to 22-ounce bombers.
Mm-hmm. Sounds fun. Sounds like fun beers. Sounds like a really inventive approach to doing something natural and clean, and give us a little bit more than just a regular old beer. Looking forward to trying some. We appreciate you for taking the time to talk to us, and best of luck to you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Pepper. Appreciate it.
We'll send people your way, and we'll send people out to Whole Foods to find you.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Nice chatting with you.
Nice chat with you too. Cheers.
This is the Central Coast Craft Beer Radio Show on the Crush 92.5.